I got an interesting deal for you guys today. Plumbing HVAC company. As I'm sure if you've been in the group, seen a couple of videos, you already know plumbing HVAC space was booming 2 years ago. Where even a company like we're going to see today, even though it's union and everything else, uh, while it used to be trading at maybe 6, 7, 8 times, right now we're in the crashed market and on the correction here in the HVAC and plumbing space. And we're seeing some pretty interesting, actually really good deals pop up. Now, here's the thing. One thing to be aware of with this industry, HVAC and plumbing was hot right after COVID, right? Everybody's staying at home. They want to, replace their furnace, air conditioning, all this stuff. They're noticing all this stuff go bad in their house. And a lot of them have shifted over. And in addition to that, there's also a lot of government push to the hyper efficiency and energy and all this other stuff. And in various areas of the US and Canada, there were rebate programs and all this other stuff put in place where these companies were booming for 2021, 2022, tail end of 2023. And once private equity stopped investing in the US, because now they've shifted over to Canada, and Canada is going to experience a similar growth and bubble burst over the next 3 years, 4 years, there's going to be a correction. And so, while some of these companies doing even $1 million in profit in the US would have traded for 7, 8 times, now in Canada they're trading for 6 to 8 times. Now they're only going for 2, 3, 4 times. They're back in the range of what's reasonable, because even though they may not stabilize at the same revenue and profit that they previously saw during 2022 or 2023, more realistically, their revenue is going to settle differently. Their profit might stay the same, or their profit margin at least will stay the same. The reality is these are good businesses, right? Recession proof. They all deal in necessity. So there's a reason why private equity went crazy on them. And this isn't the first cycle of it. This is many half a dozen plus cycles that have existed in the space of boom, bust, boom, bust, boom, bust. So now we're in the bust cycle. A lot of these deals are coming up that are really good. So that's the reason why I want to show you this one. It's New Jersey based plumbing mechanical contractors. Once you see mechanical in here, really what that tells you is this is commercial. It's not heavy on residential. And obviously there's things that come with it within that are risk factors. But this is a union shop, which is why it's kind of interesting, because you'll notice the asking price versus cash flow. They're not asking for a lot, right? This is a sub 3x deal for doing $2 million in profit. What you're paying for in a union shop, when this is the case, is you're paying for headaches, because you are going to get a lot of headaches in a union shop. It's just how it is. But you're getting paid suitably well for that headache. Now, likely, and I'll walk you through the kind of cash flow scenarios here. Likely, you can get this to fit the SBA, the 5 million, and you can make this type of deal work. That's also why I want to show it, because this is one that's, it's at that borderline, but you could probably get this down. You can get them to take some type of consulting deal on the back end, make up for the difference. And you get a good business for a good price. It's going to lock you into union deals until you end up exiting, but there's a lot of cash to be had here. When looking through the numbers here, revenue versus profit, very, very solid. The margins are actually kind of crazy here, which definitely tells me that it's commercial. You don't get this type of operating margin at 20+% when you're running full residential. Inventory is super small. So there's one, this is kind of an orange flag for me, that there's definitely a lot more inventory being held back, or maybe there's some different way that they do inventory for these larger projects. Maybe they deal in really big projects. They don't keep any inventory. Something to investigate, because usually a company this size, I mean, you're seeing 8 million in revenue, probably at least 800 grand in inventory at any point in time. If they're doing small to mid-sized commercial projects, maybe even more. Although, they are saying mechanical, but they're really all talking about plumbing here. So it could be closer to the reality, but I'm sure there's a couple hundred grand held back here. So 1993, longstanding business. That's always good. Specializes in sizable projects. And this is kind of somewhat first reaction. I looked at the deal as a skim, and I'm going through it in detail with you right now. So you're getting my first reaction and look here. Specializing in sizable projects over 80,000 square foot. So exactly what I thought, super big. So this may be the reality if they're doing project based, where the deal is being priced out, where it's like their cost at a cost plus or something along those lines. where they're not footing the bill and taking hand in transaction on inventory and material. And the project person, the contractor, GC, whoever's managing it, is the one that's footing all the bill on material. They're coming in as a labor. And so you're getting a labor arbitrage, which would kind of explain this ratio and this margin here. Union Hall plumbers, 5 primary foremans, decent size, 10 to 15 repeat specialists. That seems kind of small for this size, but you'd have to investigate what they're getting paid on a per project, per hour basis, and what that arbitrage looks like. But this is kind of like a nice small shop. Like, this is definitely run very lean. 8 million in revenue, 1,500 square foot building. That's small for commercial. Definitely small. Now, if you're not housing much inventory, it's maybe not bad, but 23 employees, 8 million in revenue. These numbers are looking very different compared to what we see for residential plumbing or even some commercial plumbing, where we would normally see, a 5 or 6 man shop is only doing 1 million or 2 million in revenue in plumbing, where 23 employees. I mean, that should really only be half this revenue. So there's definitely something here in terms of how they're doing their jobs or how they're getting their jobs, where they're getting a good rate. And so there's definitely some, investigation needed there to really understand how that would flow. Because when you're dealing with these larger projects, that's relationships. So got to make sure you're able to transfer those. But all this looks good. Some light yellow flag here, light yellow flag in terms of the margin and understanding that. Lots of equipment, so somewhat yellow flag here to understand what all this equipment is, and why there's so much of it packed into a 1,500 square foot space. And maybe it's just the broker's an idiot and put what should be inventory here and equipment. You never know. There's a good chance a lot of this is fleet, but 23 employees, there's not that much fleet. I mean, maybe you're talking about 400 or 500 grand worth of fleet. So remains to be reviewed. Competition. I mean, it's Central New Jersey. There's definitely competition there, but this is the thing, right? Loyal client base means very good partnerships and very good relationships. So it's a big thing to keep in mind and make sure you have some plan for transition. Normally, what we do, obviously, there's a plumbing license. We get a long-term option on that to keep it. We get a long-term option to keep using his name and basically just say he's still part of the business. He's just, moving back from a lot of that and moving into oversight, that type of thing. Growth and expansion. I mean, it's a growing commercial. I don't know why they're putting CAGR numbers here for whatever reason. 4 weeks train, that is a red flag for sure. Not quite a hard red flag, but it's a flag, right? Only saying 4 weeks. Maybe the broker put this in his head. You don't know. You got to see what it's going to look like for a proper transition, especially if he owns relationships. I mean, we would aim at a 12-month with a 12-month option and continued use of name and all that stuff to keep the relationships. So you'd have to see, if the broker put it in his head that that's all going to be paid work, you got to see what that's going to look like. Owner retiring, perfect. And it looks like, 37 years. This business hasn't been around for 37 years, right? 1994 minus 1993, 31 years. So you got to kind of wonder where's those other 5 years or 6 years here. But as long as he's retiring out of the business and not into anything else relating to construction, that's not a bad thing. Nothing wrong with that. So really good deal. It's interesting, good space for it. New Jersey's definitely good for home service. You can kind of cover in this commercial sector, you can cover the entire state. Because the deals will make sense, and even really multiple states surrounding, because the deal sizes will make sense. So if they aren't currently doing that, which they may not be, because it might be just a headache for the seller, good opportunity, definitely good opportunity for scale. And yeah, I mean, it's an interesting deal by far and away. I'm looking at our partner list to see if there's anyone who's interested in this type of deal, because this is actually a pretty good one. So we'll be reaching out to these guys. But if you're in the market for an HVAC deal, if you don't mind that this is commercial and you can understand the space and wrap your head around it, union shops are good deals. So let's take a look at the numbers quickly before I jump off here. So listing scenario here, 2.8 times. Like I said, the multiple is crazy low, all things considered. Seller finance, if you can negotiate 25%, assuming you can make this work out as an SBA deal, you can make this cash flow quite a bit. You can cash flow 1.2. And I've kind of set these two scenarios rather than manually setting them just to make it easier for you guys to understand. So at a 10% off of price, realistically, you actually kind of want this more. You want to get this to 5. So I'll slightly adjust that one because this one, you want to fit it under SBA. So if you can get it to 5, you get a 2.5 times multiple. And, even if you only have to come up with 20, because maybe that's what the seller wants, you're still cash flowing over 2 times. You're getting a lot of cash out the door. If you can negotiate more seller finance, all the better. And you can make it work pretty well. But there's a lot at play here in terms of potential. Definitely a lot of potential. You're cash flowing more than enough that you're going to have a lot of cash on hand. You can start buying up additional companies, buy up and down the supply chain. And this one deal can definitely set you up for a 10, 20, $30 million runway of further acquisitions just because of how cash flow heavy it is versus the debt service associated. So this is a good deal.